Yeah, so I know some of you are thinking about skipping out on the Albedo banner. I know we just got the Drip King Geodaddy Zhongli, and I know a lot of you are enamored by the thickness of Ganyu's thighs. I understand. But I'm going to be summoning for Albedo, and I think you might want to consider it. And we're going to be going over his kit here in the video today, as well as the strengths it has. And I'll even give you guys a little bit of my suggestions of how I'm going to build him, how you might want to build him, etc. What I think the strengths of his kit are going to be, all that jazz. We're going to be having some of the new Albedo footage going on in the background while we go ahead and talk about it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the Albedo overview, I guess. So first off, we're gonna note is his base stats as well as his ascension materials here. We have the Cecilia flowers, we have the divine scrolls from the Hilchurl mages, and the basalt pillars, and all the geo stuff. You know it. He is a sword geo user, so I mean he's gonna use the geo stuff. One thing to note about his base stats here is actually they're kind of ludicrous. His base attack is higher than Jean's, and his base defense is also significantly higher than like somebody like Jean and like a couple other characters. He has really high overall base stats, which I think is kind of important to note. A lot of people have been kind of like shitting on his auto attack, which I don't think he's going to be the best auto attack character either, don't get me wrong, but his base attack is higher than most, which is making the scaling on his auto attacks not too bad. So I think you still could use him like that if you want to. But he also has geo damage bonus as his hidden like ascension stat, which is also insane. Since he does like a ton of geo damage, so I think he's going to be absolutely crazy just because off of base stats alone. But we'll go ahead and get into some more here. We're looking at the actual scaling of his auto attacks. By the way, here, any of the numbers we are seeing are pure projection. They aren't confirmed. I believe they're from the closed beta. And, you know, MiHoYo could totally change all of these when it comes out next week. So, you know, we'll have to wait until he actually launches. But for now, this is what we got to work with. And, but yeah, as I said, his auto attacks don't scale very well. They're not the worst, but they're not the best either. We'll definitely have to see how fast they actually execute to, you know, determine how good they are. But, you know, for now, what we're looking at, they don't seem to be like the absolute best. For his first skill here, we have Abiogenesis Solar Isotoma. So the way this works is you place a huge field. It's bigger than Chongyun's field, by the way. From what I've seen, it looks much bigger than Chongyun's field. And what it does is in the field, when enemies take damage, it generates a solar isotoma, or no, it generates transient blossoms, which will deal AoE geo damage that scales off Albedo's defense. So basically, you'll be able to place this down, and any character, you can switch to another character, hit them, and that's going to deal AoE geo damage, which is important because that's also going to be creating crystallized shields while you're focusing on your other elemental combos, which I think is pretty darn sweet. This is just kind of like free damage in a huge area, and it lasts for a long time. The duration here is 30 seconds, and the skill cooldown is only 8 seconds, so the uptime here is 100% without a doubt. And it scales pretty well. We'll get into that in just a second, but I think the sheer value of having an Echo Turret Geo character is really strong because it's going to be creating a ton of shields for you, as well as dealing a bunch of damage. Now, one thing I do want to note here, I don't understand how this interaction works. I haven't been able to test it enough with Geo characters, but I want to know if he has the 4-piece Archaic Petra set on and he's not on the field, will the crystallized shields that are generated still give the damage boost? I don't actually know if that works like that or not. I haven't been able to test that. If you guys actually have been able to test that, please let me know in the comments. I'd like to know how that works, because if it works while he's off the field, then that would be absolutely ludicrous. I doubt it actually does work like that, but if it did, this brings him to a whole nother level than what I'm already thinking he's doing. Anyway, the scaling on here is actually pretty strong. The skill damage is pretty whatever. It's just the cast damage. I really don't expect much from that. But the transient blossom damage is 94.8% of his defense at base. So if you build this dude for like defense, you're gonna be doing a lot of damage. 94.8% is pretty darn good. And that's going to be happening every 2 seconds. And it does an AoE, mind you, when you hit. So if they're all clumped up, then that's going to be doing a lot of damage. You got somebody like Tartaglia, you're going to be doing a ton of damage on top of the already obscene amount of AoE damage he does. And that's just his first skill. Once we get into his actual elemental burst here, we talk about Rite of Progeniture Tectonic Tide. Under Albedo's command, Geo Crystals surge and burst forth, dealing AoE Geo damage in front of him. If a solar isotoma created by Albedo himself is on the field, 7 fatal blossoms will be generated in the solar isotoma field, bursting violently into bloom and dealing AoE Geo damage. Tectonic Tide damage and fatal blossom damage will not generate transient blossoms. And one thing to note is that this scales only a little bit under. The initial damage only scales a little bit under Zhongli's damage, but the fatal blossom damage at base is 72% each. And if you're doing it inside his skill, you're generating 7. So that's insane. That's like another 400% damage. It's just really going to depend if they all actually hit one target, if they're random, or if they just kind of select targets in the field. We'll have to see for sure. But I mean, that amount of damage is just ludicrous. If you manage to land that all on one target, he's going to be one-shotting bosses left and right. Not to mention the fact that the energy cost is 40 and the cooldown is only 12, so you're definitely going to be able to spam this pretty darn well. I think his potential as a kind of like support burst DPS is absolutely obscene. And oh, one thing I forgot to mention, the first skill is also a Geo Construct, so for any of you who did manage to get Zhongli, that's going to be able to resonate with it. I don't know if it's only going to resonate with the center or what. We'll have to see. I'd imagine it'd only resonate with the center, but we'll definitely have to see. And that'll be pretty interesting. And I think the Geo Pillar's resonance damage will also proc the Transient Blossom, which is pretty cool. Just wanted to note that before we moved on. And one more thing to note, his talent ascension material here is the Books of Ballad and more Divine Scrolls. Nothing too crazy there. But moving on to what I think is the most important aspect of him is the passive talents. The Flash of Genius talent is pretty cool. I think Mona has something similar. I don't have any passive talent like this, so getting it is going to be really important for me. But when Albedo crafts a weapon ascension material, he has a 10% chance to receive double the product. That's really cool. Definitely going to help me out a lot. I don't know about you guys, but the really important talents here are the next two, the passive talents, the Calcite Might. Transient Blossoms generated by Abiogenesis Solar Isotoma deal 25% more damage to opponents whose HP is below 50%. So that's just free damage for enemies who are already below, and it already deals plenty of damage by itself. So I think that's just going to be really helping you clean up characters, which is obviously more than welcome. But the talent that I think is the strongest and most important to note, I got a few things to say here, is the Homuncular Nature. Using Rite of Progeniture Tectonic Tide increases the elemental mastery of nearby party members by 125 for 10 seconds. So the thing to note here is that it's increasing your entire party's elemental mastery by 125, similar to Sucrose, is just this is a flat 125 for 10 seconds. And I'd want to note that elemental mastery actually affects the strength of your crystallized shields. And the amount of Geo damage that Albedo's putting out means he's going to be generating crystallized shields left and right, which means you're going to be generating stronger shields for your teammates as well as buffing their elemental reaction damage, and that's really important to know. A lot of people really wanted the Retracing Bolide 2-piece set to give stronger shields to your allies, however, it unfortunately doesn't work like that. And it only affects the character who has the Retracing Bolide set on. So the alternative is using a Geo character with higher elemental mastery to generate stronger shields, because the elemental mastery of Crystallize increases the shield strength. So this is just kind of passively doing that for you. And on top of the fact that it's going to be increasing the damage of your other character's elemental reactions, is actually really darn strong. I think that's a thing a lot of people are definitely sleeping on. This could obviously change on launch, but if this stays the same, I think Albedo is going to be one monster of a character. And then one last thing for his kit here, we'll actually go over his constellations. I'm only going to go over his first and second constellation. I know most of us aren't really going to get the constellations here, and I think the first and second one are the most valuable anyway. So the first one here is Transient Blossoms generated by Albedo's Abiogenesis Solar Isotoma. Regenerate 1.2 energy for Albedo. That's fucking nuts. if you ask me, if you get C1 Albedo and you're not using him, you're out of your mind. Because he already has low energy cost for his elemental burst, and the fact that the transient blossoms are going to be generating 1.2 energy, those things, you know, that can occur every 2 seconds, is downright insane. If you ask me, that is absolutely insane. But if that isn't enough to sell you, the second constellation here is Transient Blossoms generated by Abiogenesis Solar Isotoma grant Albedo Fatal Reckoning for 30 seconds. Each stack of Fatal Reckoning increases damage by 30% of Albedo's defense. The effect stacks up to 4 times, and then unleashing Rite of Progeniture Tectonic Tide consumes all the stacks of Fatal Reckoning, increasing the damage dealt by Tectonic Tide and Fatal Blossoms based on the number of stacks consumed. So this is just a flat damage buff to the Elemental Burst and the Transient Blossoms, or Fatal Blossoms, that already did a ton of damage by themselves, so I think that is just kind of crazy. If you have like C2, I have a feeling he's just going to one-shot so much stuff. So yeah, moving on. Well, we've gone over his kit, and I think he's going to be really darn strong. I think he's just going to do tons of geo damage, and he's also going to be providing really strong shields, and he's going to be supporting the team with the Elements of Mastery. I think he's kind of the perfect geo support, in my opinion. Also, you get a sweet elevator in the open world. That's kind of my jam. And the way I'm going to build him, I'm probably going to do 2-piece Archaic Petra and 2-piece of the Noblesse Oblige, just to get that extra elemental burst damage and try to deal as much elemental burst damage as I can. But I also definitely might try out the 4-piece Archaic Petra. As I said, that might be really valuable. Him generating those shields, allowing us to deal that extra damage. We'll have to see how that really interacts, though, before we actually go ahead and make that decision. No, I'll definitely have to test that out. We'll see. But overall, I think the 2-piece Archaic Petra and the 2-piece Noblesse Oblige is definitely going to be the move. As for weapons, I want to try a couple things. I think the new sword is going to be pretty interesting on him if it works like that. But I think I want to try something like the Favonius sword to see how much energy that actually generates for him and how much you can actually spam that elemental burst. I think I'd be really interested in trying that because I'm definitely going to be going for like defense percent, geo bonus damage, and like crit rate / crit damage on him. I think that's probably going to be the best mix of stats there to go ahead and make him deal the most damage, but we'll have to see. Definitely gonna have to test those things out. I'm definitely gonna be summoning for this guy. I really like him. I like his kit, and I'm really excited to summon for him. And I'm actually gonna be skipping out on the Ganyu banner for Albedo, I think, because I also want Xiao, which is speculated to come in 1.3, so I might have to skip on the Ganyu banner. You know, I thought this game was all waifus, but it's all husbands now. Anyway, I believe that's gonna be it for the video. I just wanted to go over Albedo, maybe give you guys some insight on why you might actually want to summon for him. Yeah, I'm definitely summoning for him. I think he's going to be an amazing character, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on him, and I hope you guys are also interested in him too as well. But you know, if you still want to summon for Ganyu and you've already got Zhongli, then don't worry about it. I'm sure Ganyu's going to be amazing as well. And if you really like her kit and her thighs, then maybe you just want to go for her. I really can't blame you. Anyway, my name is Blossoms, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.